Baba, don't eat that. Please. That food, it smells like death. The trembling voice of 6-year-old Zubri broke the calm of the early evening in Magoha village. Her eyes, wide like full moons, shimmered with fear as she clutched the frayed hem of her father's chitin shirt. Kwame looked down at his daughter, fork halfway to his mouth. The roasted goat meat glistened under the glow of the lantern, steam rising with a scent that usually meant celebration. Tonight it smelled of betrayal. Kwame furrowed his brow. What did you say, Mwana Wangu? Zubri didn't blink. That food, it wants to hurt you. Her voice was barely a whisper. But in that stillness, it thundered. Kwame was no ordinary man. In the village of Magoha, nestled between the red hills of the eastern savannah, he was a respected farmer and the eldest son of the Mbatha clan. Strong like the baobab and just like the village rain, he was slow to anger but impossible to ignore when stirred. He'd raised Zubri alone after his wife, Omalicha, passed away during childbirth. The pain of her death had never left him, but Zubri's birth had kept his heart beating. Tonight they were celebrating. Kwame had finally been granted a land title, after years of petitions and bribes. He now owned 7 acres of fertile land by the Luma River. The entire village had gathered under the moon to roast meat, drink fermented palm wine, and sing under the drum's rhythm. The women wore dazzling lesos, their heads wrapped in bright fabric. Children danced barefoot around the fire, and the elders shared stories in Kiembu, their tribal tongue. Yet here was Zubri, pale and shaking. Kwame knelt and cupped her cheek. Zubri and Ainini? What's wrong, my flower? She pressed her small hand against his. I saw Mama. Kwame's stomach turned. She came to me, in my dream last night. She wore a white dress and her eyes were sad. She pointed to this food and said, "Don't let Baba eat it, or he'll go where I went." Kwame stared at his daughter. Her innocence was unshakable. Her sincerity raw. He gently placed the meat back on the plate. People laughed and chatted around them, unaware of the silent storm brewing inside one child's heart. That night Kwame couldn't sleep. He lay on a papyrus mat, listening to the distant drumming from the village square and the chirps of the night crickets. Zubri was curled next to him, fingers curled around his thumb like she had done since she could crawl. Her words kept echoing, "It smells like death." He tried to brush it off as a child's imagination, but his instinct said otherwise. Something was wrong. In the morning he wrapped his shuka tightly around his waist, carried his machete and went to the meat vendor, Dula, who had provided the roasted meat for the celebration. Dula was a jovial man with a booming laugh and teeth stained from chewing miraa. "Ah, Kwame, you survived the feast," he joked. "You ate too much goat, I bet." Kwame didn't smile. "Who delivered the meat last night?" Dula scratched his head. "A boy from Mwanza brought it. Said it came from the hills. I don't ask questions when the meat is cheap and clean." "Was it slaughtered here?" Dula shrugged. "I doubt it. But why are you asking, brother?" Kwame's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Later that day Zubri grew sick. She began vomiting uncontrollably. Her small body trembled, her lips pale. Kwame rushed her to the village herbalist, Mama Mtemi, a woman older than the mango tree by the river. After examining her and smelling the remnants of the food Zubri had tasted, a single piece she had nibbled before realizing the danger, Mama Mtemi's face darkened. "This food is not clean." Kwame felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. Mama Mtemi crushed dry bark and leaves, mixing them with water. "She'll recover. But you must find out who brought this meat." That evening, Zubri lay asleep under a mosquito net while Kwame walked silently to the village square. He needed answers. The elders had gathered, drinking tea and eating roasted maize under the stars. Kwame stood before them, firm as stone. "Respected ones," he began in a low, slow voice, "there is poison in our food." The air stilled. He told them everything, Zubri's warning, her illness, the mysterious vendor, and Mama Mtemi's conclusion. Elder Jomo, wrinkled and wise, spoke first. "Are you accusing someone, Kwame?" "I accuse no one. But I fear someone has tried to harm me, or all of us." The gathering murmured. In their culture, poisoning food was the worst kind of betrayal, a silent, cowardly act. It was the weapon of the weak and the wicked. Over the next few days more villagers fell sick. 3 elders. 2 children. 1 pregnant woman miscarried. All had eaten the roasted goat. Panic spread. People demanded to know where the meat came from. Dula's business was shut down. The chief called a meeting under the great sycamore tree. The community gathered as accusations flew like arrows in a storm. Old rivalries resurfaced. Fingers were pointed. Dula swore on his mother's grave he had no ill intent. Then a quiet voice from the back spoke. I saw a stranger at the market. He paid a boy to deliver meat. I remember because he wore yellow leather shoes, very strange in our village. The man who spoke was Akili, a quiet hunter who rarely spoke unless necessary. Kwame's heart raced. He remembered something. Yellow leather shoes. Only one man he knew wore those. Bako. His younger brother. Bako and Kwame had once been inseparable. They farmed together, hunted rabbits as boys, and even married sisters. But after Malika's death, land disputes arose. Bako believed Kwame used sympathy to gain favor with the elders. When Kwame was awarded the Luma River land, Bako disappeared from the village, bitter, broken, and vengeful. Now he had returned, not with a greeting but with a curse. Kwame didn't wait. He gathered 3 trusted men and went into the hills. They found Bako's hut 2 days later, hidden near the old riverbed, overgrown and abandoned. Inside they found something chilling. Dried herbs. A butchered goat. Rotten spices. And a letter. A letter that read, "Let him eat like a king. And die like a pig." They returned with the evidence. The village council summoned Bako. When he arrived, proud, defiant, unrepentant, the people gasped. He wore the yellow leather shoes. Kwame didn't speak. He only looked into his brother's eyes. Why? Asked Elder Jomo, the elder whose granddaughter had lost her unborn child. Bako smirked. Because this village crowns heroes with lies. My brother is no king. Let him taste what I have tasted. The council exiled Bako that day. Forever. Back at home, Kwame sat beside Zuberi, who was now recovering. He stroked her hair. You saved me, my daughter? She blinked slowly. Mama told me to. Kwame's eyes filled with tears. He didn't believe in ghosts. But he believed in a mother's love. And a child's warning. The morning after Bako's exile was unusually silent. The village of Magoha, once known for the melodic rhythms of pestle-pounding grain and children's laughter, now echoed only with the soft breeze passing through maize fields. Even the chickens in the compounds clucked more quietly, as though mourning something unseen. Kwame stepped out of his mud-walled house barefoot, feeling the warm red soil underfoot. He had not slept. Zuberi was still weak, lying inside on a mat of woven reeds. Her fever had broken, but her body had not yet recovered. The villagers gave him glances, respectful yet cautious. Bako's crime was one thing, but his blood flowed in Kwame's veins. In African tradition, blood guilt often left invisible stains. At the river, Kwame met Aking, the village headwoman. She was respected for her fairness and feared for her tongue, which could slice like sugarcane stalks in dry season. Kwame, she said without preamble, you have done nothing wrong, but your brother has shamed your entire clan. Kwame nodded, heavy-hearted. What can I do? Clean what he has stained. Make peace with the land and the people. How? She leaned on her staff. Give back. That week, Kwame gathered elders, women, and youth under the baobab tree. He stood bare-chested in humility, a sign of shame and openness. In his hands he held a calabash of fresh cow's milk and a live rooster. I offer this milk, he said, as a symbol of peace. And this rooster, to the soil and the spirits of the ancestors, not for blood but to end bitterness. He poured the milk on the roots of the baobab and released the rooster into the bush. Then he faced them all. Who else has suffered from this evil? I will help however I can. A woman rose, holding a quiet infant. Her eyes were rimmed red. I lost my second child in the womb after that meet. Will you return that life to me? Kwame lowered his head. I cannot, Mama Enyango. But I will work your farm this planting season. My hands will be yours. Another man stood. I have no medicine for my mother's stomach sickness. Will you heal her? Kwame nodded. I will buy her herbs from Mamam Temi. And carry her there myself. By the time the meeting ended, forgiveness had not been given. But something else had begun. Restoration. In the following weeks, Kwame became a different man. He no longer sat under the tree drinking palm wine in the evenings. Instead, he tilled other people's farms, fetched water for the elderly, and paid for medicine with his own savings. Zuberi, still recovering, watched from the shade of their house as her father limped home daily, dust-covered, sweat-streaked, but never complaining. One day she asked, "Why do you work so hard for people who are angry with you?" He smiled faintly. "Because if I do not, then my brother wins." But Bako was not finished. From exile he stirred rumors in nearby markets. He claimed that Kwame had poisoned the meat himself, just to gain sympathy and clean his name after past land disputes. That he used his daughter's visions as a story to gain favor. "These villagers are fools," he whispered in the ears of traders. He even made his daughter pretend to be sick. "That girl is a clever actress." These stories reached Magoha like poisoned wind. And just like that, doubt returned. Mama Enyengo refused the food Kwame brought. The youth who once helped him fetch water now avoided him. Even Aking, once stern but supportive, said carefully, "Kwame, these are dangerous seeds Bako is planting. And they are growing fast." Kwame looked toward the Luma River. "Let them grow. The truth is not a leaf that falls easily." One market day, a stranger appeared in Magoha. He claimed to be a trader from Kibwezi. Tall, with a sly smile and leather sandals, but his accent gave him away. It was rural Eastern, just like Bako's. He set up shop near the well, selling palm wine and sugar. He listened more than he sold. Listened and whispered. One night he was caught behind Mamam Temi's hut, stealing herbs. The men of the village surrounded him with spears. "Who sent you?" Kwame asked. The man spat. "Your brother sends his greetings." That night, flames rose in the direction of the goat pen. Kwame ran barefoot, heart hammering, only to find 3 of his goats slaughtered, their bodies arranged in a triangle. A message. He fell to his knees. Zuberi appeared behind him, sleepy-eyed. "Why does he hate us, Baba?" Kwame pulled her close. "Because he forgot how to love." The next morning, Kwame made a decision. He packed dried cassava, maize flour, and his father's old machete. He wore his sandals and kissed Zuberi's head. "I am going to end this," he said. Zuberi's eyes widened. "You'll fight him?" Kwame smiled. "No. I'll forgive him to his face, and ask him to forgive himself." The road to exile was long and dry. Kwame walked 2 days through dust and thorn bushes until he reached the makeshift hut near the old abandoned quarry where outcasts lived. He found Bako sitting on a stool, carving wood into sharp sticks. "Brother," Kwame said. Bako froze. "Then, you came to kill me?" Kwame chuckled softly. "If I wanted you dead, I would have stayed silent and let your own hatred finish the job." Silence. Then Bako turned, face gaunt, eyes sunken. "Why are you here?" Kwame sat beside him. "To remind you. You were once my brother. You still are." Bako laughed bitterly. "After what I did? You have your demons. I have my scars. But only one of us has a daughter who almost died." Bako looked away. "She forgave you," Kwame added. "She told me yesterday." Bako blinked. "I came to tell you one thing. This hatred you carry? It's your last meal. Spit it out, before it swallows you whole." Kwame left without another word. He didn't look back. But as he walked away he heard something. Not words. Just the sound of wood hitting the ground. A stick. Drop. Maybe, just maybe, something inside Bako had cracked. Back in Magoha, Kwame returned to his work. The people watched. Slowly, trust began to regrow, not quickly but like the roots of a mango tree, strong, hidden, patient. And Zuberi? She smiled more. Laughed again. The fever never returned. But every time food was served she still sniffed it first. Just to be sure. The rains had come to Magoha. Thick clouds crawled across the sky like buffalo herds, and the dry red earth drank deeply from the downpour. The air was heavy with the smell of wet soil and mango blossoms. Life had returned to the land, but peace had not yet fully returned to the people. In the quiet of his hut, Kwame sat beside Zuberi, watching her draw shapes in the dust with a stick. A sun, a bird, a bowl of food. "Why do you always draw food?" he asked. She tilted her head. "Because I'll never forget the taste of that poisoned meat. It was sweet at first." Kwame's throat tightened. "Do you fear food now?" She looked up at him, her small eyes too wise for her age. "No, Baba. But I listen to it now." That evening, the village council held a rare meeting in the shrine courtyard. The head woman, Akin, stood in the center with 2 elders beside her. Behind them were 3 men from another village, travelers from Karuru, a settlement on the edge of the jungle. Their leader, a broad-chested man named Chikir, had come with a trade proposal. "Our harvest has been good," Chikir announced. "We grow cassava, sweet yams, and plums the size of a cow's eye. We ask for one thing only: dried fish. Magoha's river is full, and our children miss that salty taste." The villagers nodded with interest. "In return," Chikir added, "we offer dried fruits and palm honey. And something special." He gestured behind him. A young boy stepped forward with a large basket covered in palm leaves. He uncovered it slowly. Inside were golden-brown dafu fruits, rare, juicy delicacies that grew deep in the jungle and were said to taste like a mix of banana and mango. Gasps of admiration rippled through the crowd. But Zuberi, sitting behind her father, stared at the basket with narrowed eyes. Kwame leaned toward her. "What is it, Ntoto?" She whispered, "Baba, don't eat that." Later that night, while the villagers danced in celebration of the new trade pact, Zuberi sat alone beside the tree where she had once collapsed from poisoning. Her small hands trembled. Mama Mtemi, the old herbalist, approached her slowly, leaning on a crooked stick. "You see something, don't you?" she asked. Zuberi looked up. "They said the fruit was jungle-grown. But it smells bitter. Sweet outside, bitter inside. Like that goat meat Bako gave us." Mama Mtemi frowned. "There is a kind of poison," she said slowly, "called karunji. It comes from tree bark. Very hard to detect. If soaked into fruits, it doesn't kill fast. It weakens, confuses, makes your mind feel heavy." Zuberi looked up sharply. "Then people won't even know they're poisoned?" The old woman nodded. "They'll just sleep and stop waking." The next day, Zuberi and Mama Mtemi visited the courtyard where the ndafu fruits were being handed out. Children giggled, mouths stained with yellow pulp. Even the elders chewed eagerly, praising the rare taste. Mama Mtemi asked for one fruit for examination. She took it home, boiled a piece in water, and mixed the extract with goat's milk, a traditional test for toxins. Within minutes, the milk curdled and turned dark. "That's not normal," she whispered. Kwame was sharpening his hoe when Zuberi ran up breathless. "Baba," she cried, "don't let anyone eat more. The fruit is poisoned. Like that meat." Kwame blinked, stunned. "Are you sure?" Mama Mtemi tested it. "Her herbs say so." Kwame didn't wait. The village square was still lively, full of laughing children and chewing adults. Without ceremony, Kwame stormed in and struck the fruit basket with his hoe, scattering ndafu fruits across the ground. "Stop eating," he roared. "Yes." Chikir stood. "What is the meaning of this madness?" Kwame raised a fruit high. "These are soaked in karunji. They will not kill you fast, but they will kill you quietly." A silence fell. Eking stepped forward. "And you know this how?" Kwame looked to Zuberi. "I smelled it," she said. "Just like before. And Mama Mtemi proved it." The headwoman's face darkened. She turned to Mama Mtemi, who stepped forward and nodded. "I tested it myself. It failed the old ways." The people erupted. Some threw down their half-eaten fruits in horror. Others rushed to make themselves vomit. One elder fainted. Chikir was seized. At first he protested. "We ate it too. We didn't know." But a search of their traveling bags revealed hidden bundles of the poisoned bark, tightly wrapped in banana leaves. Then came the truth. They were not traders from Karuru. They were outcasts, driven from another village for theft and deceit. Their plan had been simple: win trust, poison slowly, and return later to steal from the weakened. "I was only doing what I was told," one of them muttered. "By who?" Eking demanded. He hesitated, then whispered, "A man, from the quarry." Kwame's face went pale. "Bako." 2 days later, Zuberi sat beside her father on the porch, peeling sweet potatoes. "Will Uncle Bako ever stop?" she asked. Kwame took a long breath. "When a man cannot find peace inside, he tries to destroy it outside." She looked down. "Maybe I should talk to him." Kwame froze. "No, Mtoto. That place, it's no place for your feet." But she shook her head. "He needs to hear something. And I'm not afraid anymore." That evening, without telling her father, Zuberi slipped away. She carried with her only 2 things, a gourd of water and a roasted sweet potato. By dusk, she had reached the edge of the old quarry. Bako sat outside carving again. She approached quietly. When he saw her, he startled. "You. What are you doing here?" She walked up and handed him the potato. "You look hungry," she said softly. He stared at it, then at her. "You're not afraid I'll poison you again?" She smiled faintly. "I didn't bring food for me. Just for you." He didn't speak. "Uncle," she said, "poison doesn't just kill people. It kills names. Kills love. You don't have to keep drinking it." She turned and walked away. Bako watched her go, the small, brave figure vanishing into the night. He looked down at the potato, and for the first time in years, he cried. The moon was still high when Zuberi returned home. Kwame stood by the doorway, pacing, his shadow long against the mud wall. When he saw her, his breath caught, part relief, part fear, part something unspoken. He didn't scold her. He simply knelt and pulled her into his arms. "You shouldn't have gone alone," he whispered. "I had to," she replied, her voice muffled against his shoulder. He needed to remember who he was. In the following days, the village buzzed with unrest. The poisoning had shaken their sense of safety. Mothers clutched their children tighter, food was tested twice before eating, and the market saw fewer visitors. People whispered in corners about betrayal, about Bako, about how far a man could fall. Enkay, the head woman, gathered the council. She spoke of security, of exile, and of rebuilding trust. But it was Mama Mtemi who said something no one expected. "Before we cast him into silence," she said, "we must ask, what poisoned him first?" Some scoffed. Others nodded thoughtfully. Because they remembered. They remembered Bako the hunter, the clever boy who once chased hyenas away with a sling and a prayer. They remembered the laughter in his eyes, before grief hollowed him out. Years ago his wife, Kwame's sister Adia, had died in childbirth. Both she and their newborn were lost on the same day. Something inside Bako snapped. He became distant, bitter. He blamed Kwame, the midwife, the world. But mostly he blamed himself. What followed was a spiral. Drinking, violence, debt, and finally exile. And now, poison. That night, Kwame found himself at the edge of the quarry. The moonlight painted the stones silver. Bako was there as always, carving, but the usual rage in his motions had softened. "You let her come alone?" he asked without looking up. Kwame sat on a stone. "She didn't ask." "She's brave," Bako muttered. "Not like us." Silence hung between them. Then Bako said, "She reminded me of Adia. The way she speaks. Like she can see your soul." Kwame said nothing, letting the night speak for them. Finally, Bako placed the carving beside him, a small wooden bowl, perfectly smooth. "For her," he said. "Tell her not to eat from it until she's sure it's safe." Kwame exhaled slowly. "You still have jokes." Bako half smiled. "Maybe." Then the smile faded. "I didn't mean for anyone to die, Kwame. Just to punish. Hurt the village like it hurt me." Kwame stood. "You already did." Then, softer, he added, "But the only way back is forward." By dawn, Bako walked into Magoha with hands raised and a truth on his lips. "I poisoned your food. I deceived your trust. I ask not for forgiveness, only for the chance to undo what I can." Shock spread like fire. Some screamed. Some wept. And some, remembering Adia, stayed quiet. Enkay stood, stern as ever. "You will help us replant what we lost. Work twice as hard. Sleep half as much. You'll earn your name back with sweat." He bowed. "I accept." Weeks passed. With Bako's help, the village dug new trenches, planted new crops, and repaired old fences. He never spoke unless spoken to. He never rested when others did. The children began watching him, not with fear but curiosity. Zuberi watched too from a distance. One day she approached him with the bowl he had carved. "I waited," she said, "to be sure." He smiled. "And now?" She held up the bowl. It was filled with fresh maize porridge, steaming and fragrant. They ate in silence. But peace, like crops, requires rain and patience. And danger does not always leave quietly. One night, a rider arrived from a neighboring village, dust on his face, urgency in his breath. "A merchant caravan was attacked by masked men," he reported. "Not bandits, but men who asked about Magoha. They're coming." The villagers gathered in fear. "Why us?" someone whispered. "They want revenge," said another. "For what Bako exposed." Kwame turned to Enkay. We must prepare. And Bako? He stood in the back, clutching his carving knife, his eyes hard. If it's my mess, he said, then I will be the one to clean it. The air in Magoha had changed. It wasn't the season, though the rains had grown shy and the sun more cruel. It was the weight of knowing something was coming. Every evening men sharpened spears. Women hid grain stores and sewed emergency satchels. Elders murmured protective prayers. Children were taught to run, not ask questions. And in the center of it all stood Bako, no longer a stranger but not quite a brother. He carved less and spoke more. Each night he taught the men how to build traps, how to move silently, how to read footprints. Zubri watched him carefully. He's not the same, she told Kwame. Kwame nodded. Pain either makes a man hard, or makes him wise. Then they came. Just before dawn, when the dew still kissed the earth and roosters had barely woken, a scream shattered the quiet. A scout. Bloodied. Limping. There at the river, he gasped. 7 men. Armed. Masked. The village sprang into action. Iking organized the warriors. Mama Mtemi guarded the children in the meeting hut. Kwame took his bow and kissed Zubri's forehead. You stay with Mama. I want to help, she whispered. You already have, he said gently. You reminded us all what it means to care. To forgive. Then he was gone. Bako led a small group toward the riverbank. He recognized the strategy, a wide sweep meant to corner the village. But Magoha wasn't a place of cowards anymore. As the attackers crept along the tall grass, they found traps snapping beneath their feet. Spears hurled from hidden perches. Smoke bombs lit the field in blinding fog. The men panicked. Bako emerged from the mist, face painted with charcoal, knife in hand. One attacker rushed him. Bako sidestepped, disarmed him, and pressed a hand to his chest. Why Magoha? He barked. The man spat. You betrayed the network. What network? But the man bit his own tongue, literally, and collapsed. Bako's stomach twisted. This wasn't just revenge. This was silence. Elsewhere, Kwame found himself face to face with the leader, taller, bulkier, wrapped in crimson cloth. They fought near the edge of the river. Steel clashed. Kwame's arm bled. The stranger struck again, then hesitated. You are Adia's brother, he said, voice muffled by his mask. Kwame froze. How do you know that name? The man stepped back. I once loved her. The words hit like thunder. And then Kwame saw it, the birthmark near the man's eye. Mwamba? The masked man flinched. Bako arrived out of breath. You're the one who brought me the poison herbs years ago. Mwamba's jaw clenched. I tried to save her, he said. But no one listened. You all blamed each other while she died. Kwame lowered his weapon. You disappeared. I was cast out. Mwamba growled. Left to rot while grief made enemies of brothers. A long silence fell between them, broken only by the rush of the river. Then Zubri's voice rang from the hilltop. Stop. She had followed them barefoot, her shawl trailing in the wind. All 3 men turned. Please, she cried. No more death. Not because of a woman who loved you all. Bako's hand trembled. Kwame looked away, tears in his eyes. And Mwamba removed his mask. His face, once handsome, was weathered by time and regret. I came to destroy Magoha, he said. But I think Magoha already died, the day she did. Zubri walked up and held his hand. No, she whispered. It lives. In me. In my father. In those who stayed. In the weeks that followed, peace returned, this time not out of fear but through reckoning. Mwamba stayed, quietly planting yams near the river. Bako began carving a memorial, not of warriors or gods, but of a mother holding a child, with a single tear rolling down her cheek. Kwame taught Zubri how to read stars. And Zubri? She grew into a voice stronger than stone and softer than rain. A girl who once said, this food might be your last meal, beware, and saved not just her father but a village, a stranger, and a broken man.